Monsters is officially an anime on Netflix, which you should 100% go watch. And that came out within a year of the One Piece live action. So now he has 3 extremely successful series. We got a pretty good amount of One Piece adaptations now with the live action, now Monsters, and now the Witch Studio remake happening for Netflix. One Piece is standing the trial of time. If you have no idea what Monsters is, we're going to go through the story of it, check out the differences with the anime and what they changed in the adaptation because there was some juicy stuff. So now, it all starts with Ryuma stumbling into this Western-style town, and if you didn't know, Oda absolutely loved Westerns, and you can see it all over One Piece and basically everything he's ever written. And we get introduced to a fancy dressed man and a waitress at a very nice cafe. Shirano, who is known as an amazing swordsman, second only to the Sword King, who's famous for saving a little girl from a town who was attacked by a dragon, and Flare, who is none other than the little girl that he saved. And then boom, stumbles in Ryuma, starving to death, and Flare feeds him, just classic One Piece Oda-esque. And this is where we actually get to see what Ryuma actually was like. He's respectful, he's got a swordsman warrior soul, which we see when Shirano bumps into his scabbard, and Ryuma challenges him to a fight to the death, which Flare instantly stops, and he goes full Dogeza, and that shows you exactly, everything you need to know. But his true swordsman soul does come full circle, and he ends up getting in trouble, bumping into somebody else in the street, and the guy creates an absolute muck. He frames Ryuma for something, he pulls out the horn, and he summons a dragon. Shirano steps up and says that he's going to stay and fight, and everyone should evacuate to safety, and Flare tries to stop him because she respects him for saving her. And unfortunately, she overhears the truth, and she finds out that not only was he part of the framing of Ryuma, he unfortunately was part of the whole reason that her family and the town she was from is no longer with us. And with Ryuma owing her his life, this is the perfect opportunity for him to step up and kind of protect and avenge his savior. After everything dies down, the people come back to town, and then we hear from a couple people that Ryuma, unknowingly to him, is called Ryuma the King, which he has absolutely no clue, which is actually absolutely elite, because his goal in life is to one day duel the king to find out who is the better swordsman soul and the better swordsman altogether. So he's actually chasing himself, which deserves the name, the king. So now, the anime adaptation, and it was absolute gas. Part of the glory of Monsters is that it was one of his really early works, and you can kind of feel Oda grasping at the idea of One Piece from it. It just has this raw beautifulness to it, which the anime really cleans up perfectly. And it officially gives us the story of the legendary sword god Ryuma. The first big thing that they did is they actually added Shusui to the anime itself. In the anime, he's just using a normal-looking katana. It's nothing special, which again makes complete sense because this was a handful of years before One Piece was even an idea, even before Romance Dawn. So actually adding the blade that Zoro does inherit at the end of Thriller Bark is just absolutely 5-headed, and it's perfect. And when he does use it, the blade is black, so we can assume that Haki is involved, but again, because the story was so early, we don't really see any of that influence yet. So that was nice that they left it pure to that point. Now, a massive touch that I thought was a great move on their part is that the narrator of the story, whether you watched English or the Japanese dub, is the voice actors for Zoro. So it's either Christopher Sabat or Kazuya Nakai.
A dragon's horn was stolen.
And it's kind of nice because you can kind of imagine this being Zoro telling the story at a bar or to the crew. And I think that's kind of a cool little, you're addicted to One Piece, this is kind of cool thing you can imagine. That's just me, but that's what I do. And we mentioned Haki before, and they really didn't have big examples of this, but what they did do is that there was a couple of moments when he's facing Shirano, he's facing the dragon, and he's facing DR, and his eyes go red. And I kind of took this as their representation of an early form of observation Haki in a way. And you can kind of see that with that fight with Shirano, because it gets a really mangaka art style that they used during the Wano fights a lot, which was absolutely sick. And things slow down, and you kind of just see him go through these amazing motions, and I thought it was a really nice touch. Which actually brings up DR, who is actually One Piece canon. We see him a couple of times, well, his wanted poster at least, on Full Body Ship in episode 45, in Gold Roger's Bar in episode 66, and then in the Chopper movie also. And finally, a very cool addition, they showed the scene where Ryuma actually gives Zoro his sword, and they actually reanimated it all together. So that was really nice touch, and I think it was a little bit more emotional, and that kind of makes you think, was he telling the story or was he being told the story? So maybe I was getting close to that. I don't know. What do you think? Let me know below. And honestly, the reanimation I think was better than the original. It was quick. It was impactful. It sets the tone for the legacy that is Ryuma's swordsman's soul going into kind of Zoro, or Zoro inheriting that style of swordsman's soul, and that whole just kind of family tree that exists. We'll go over that another day. If you haven't read it, go read it. If you haven't watched it, definitely go watch it. And that's it. Like, subscribe for all of the goodness. Be healthy, stay healthy, keep uplifting each other, and I'll see you guys in the next one.